You're listening to Heroic Reflections, honoring the stories behind the service, hosted by Liam Steele. On this episode, Sergeant Richard D. Tiberii, United States Marine Corps.
Can you tell us how your military career got started?
I was 18, 19 out of high school, and no idea what I was going to do, but I knew I wasn't going to go to college, so, and I had a low draft number. The likelihood of me being drafted was probably pretty good. So I ended up joining the Marines.
And the Vietnam War was going on, so he knew he was going to be drafted.
Okay.
So what? Say it again. Join the
Joined the Marine Corps in May of '67. Went to boot camp. Came off from boot camp and I had orders to go to Vietnam. It was 197 Marines in the patrol back up in the group that I was in, and out of 197, 195 had orders to go to Vietnam. So
If you have any trouble understanding him, Liam, let me know and I can say it louder.
Okay.
He has trouble speaking because of his Parkinson's.
Okay.
Okay.
that'll put me in a conversation. I have had Parkinson's for 23 years.
Wow.
Contributed to Agent Orange. Familiar with Agent Orange?
Yeah, it's a herbicide.
Yeah, right.
Which they used in Vietnam to spray all the foliage so that they could, the Viet Cong couldn't hide in the jungle. So they would spray it, and then 2 or 3 days later, there was nothing left. It was all barren, which is pretty disgusting when you think about it. Yeah.
Pierce, do you have any questions?
Do you remember what it was like when you, like, on your first day when you got in the Marines?
First day in Marines or first day in Vietnam? Give me both.
Yeah, you probably had both. You had a lot of, he probably could answer that in both places.
Yeah, you can do that.
Joining the Marine Corps was the day I left. I took my oath over in Boston Custom House, and next day I was on a train to
South Carolina.
Well, South Carolina, but we had to go to New York and Washington. Then we took a train to Beaufort, South Carolina. We were at a bus stop, at a bus station in Beaufort, South Carolina. And there was a whole busload of party people looking to go into the Marine Corps in Paris Island. We were there, it was probably 2 in the afternoon. We sat there until 11 o'clock at night. Come to find out, this is a typical day's entrance into the Marine Corps. The bus you went to Marine base, 11 o'clock at night, and it's in movies. The guy gets on the bus screaming, and everybody get off the bus. There's yellow footprints on the side of the bus, and you have to stand in the footprints because you're not smart enough to know how to stand on your own. So, and it was a night that I'll never forget. It was like the entire night we were up, getting uniforms, getting civilian clothes back into a bag, getting a haircut, into a shape completely. So by 10, 11 o'clock, they let you finally take a couple hours of nap. And not a nap, it was short-lived sleep over.
And then the fun began.
And then the fun began. So you had no idea what Paris Island looked like. It was pitch dark when you get there at 11 o'clock at night. And they did that to entice people not to make sure that they didn't try to escape. Because there's nowhere. You had nowhere to go. It was a swamp around the whole place. And not only swamp, they also said that there was some type of mud that suck you into
Quicksand, like, right?
Yeah. And because it came out because there were a few people ended up dying or lost in the mud and drowned or whatever they did.
Trying to escape from Paris Island, 2
Yeah.
people drowned.
So, and then a couple of incidents during the boot camp is that I was from typically not from North from Somerville at the time, and I was probably a wise character, had an attitude. And,
Bless you.
Thank you.
the outside, it was a day, it was hot, it must have been 99 degrees. And one good thing the Marine Corps would do is they wouldn't train you in whether it was 100 degrees. You have to sit around and idle. You do go through the motions, but you couldn't do any real hand-to-hand training. So we were sitting up there in a grassy field, and I had my resting on my elbow, and the GI came up behind me and kicked my arm out and asked me if I was tired. So I said, no, I wasn't tired. He says, well, you look tired. So I said, he brought us into the barracks. And at this time, the barracks was brand new, and they had an air conditioner. But he immediately shut the air conditioner off. In a matter of half hour, the place was sweltering. And his game plan was to sit me in the middle of the barracks with the glass of ice water and start to give out orders of doing PT inside the room.
All the other Marines had to do exercise while he sat in the middle of the room doing drinking ice water, and they were all suffering with the heat doing exercises because Rick had stayed on his elbow outside, and that he was just trying to make an example of him.
Which he did, because his game plan was to
all of his fellow Marines were going to get him that night for making him do that.
they call it a blanket party.
A blanket party.
You come to bed in the middle of the night, and everybody just starts beating on you. So
the next morning,
the Marine Corps set up this that you have 3 DIs that are Marines, and one stays with you for 24 hours a day. So there's no way you're going to get out of that place. And it was just around midnight, hoping the blanket party would start, but he'd have to leave first. So he stuck his head in the barracks and said, I'm going up for smoke. Be back in a half hour. So that was a signal that they'd be glad to wail on me if they wanted to. But as it turned out, I had enough supporting friends that said that no, he didn't do anything wrong. We're not gonna touch him. So the guy came back. He saw that things didn't go the way he planned. There was no beating on it.
No retribution on. Yep.
So he made me stay up until 5 o'clock, and then the bus pulled out in front of the barracks. 5 o'clock. It took me off to a place called Motivation Platoon. You had boot camp, you had Motivation Platoon if you had an attitude, and you had the Fat Farm if you were too heavy and you needed to lose weight, and then you had the weakest platoon if you needed to build up some strength. So, and all these things, you didn't want to go because if you went in the Fat Farm, the Skinny Farm, or the attitude, you would end up extending your time in boot camp. You would not be with the people that you were with if you were going through the motion. So I spent the day in the Motivation Platoon, which was a strong place that just did physical work. We moved piles of rocks. So, and I came back that night. Again, the DI wasn't happy with me because I survived another day of Motivation Platoon. So his way of getting back with me was the next day we had a training, hand-to-hand training. It was with 2 pupil sticks, which are like a bat with a ball on each end. So, and you try to knock somebody off a plank if you're walking across. So he put me up on the plank and put the biggest guy he could find in the company and had us go against each other. And so I didn't do too bad. I actually knocked him off the plank. So then he put up two guys, one on each side of me. So actually I didn't win that one, but I got my head bells ringing because we had helmets on, but it was still the echoes and it was in the head of the pulling stick. So from that point on, my attitude was gone, and I quickly learned that the best way was to survive was just to say nothing. If you're invisible, you'll get through it.
Mhm.
So I
don't know if that answered your question or not. What,
It is. After boot camp, did you have a certain role?
after boot camp, we went to Camp of June for another 12 weeks of training, and it was infantryman training. So
jungle warfare?
yeah, you went through survival, slowly jungle warfare. So again, this was for like 30 days. I think we did this. Then we got leave to come home for 2 weeks, about 3 weeks. And our orders after that was to go to California for another 6 weeks of training, and then go off to Vietnam. So
Mhm.
I spent another 6 weeks in Oakland, California, and went from there to Okinawa, and from Okinawa went to Vietnam. And it was funny too because back then there was such a heavy load of people going into Vietnam and all areas of Vietnam that they ended up using commercial planes to take us to Vietnam. I went to Continental Airlines and landed in Da Nang. And so it was pretty
What
interesting.
do you wish you knew before you joined?
Sorry.
What did you wish you knew before you joined?
But more about what was happening in Vietnam because I knew nothing about what was happening. And,
Okay.
so I don't think it would have changed my mind. I'm not sure if it would have changed my mind or not. It seemed to be not the thing to do, but they were taking a lot of folks. And it was interesting because the Marine Corps, if they didn't have enough to meet the quota for the day, they would go to the Army and go to the Navy groups and just randomly pick 2 people or 3 people whatever they needed to fill up the ranks of the Marines. So, and
Do you have some questions?
Yeah. How long were you deployed in Vietnam for?
383 days, 13 months. I don't know how they come up with 13 months, but it was 13 months. And I spent the entire day there. I spent it between what they did is most of the people deployed out of Da Nang are way here. But we arrived in Da Nang and I think it was pretty interesting. We got off the commercial plane and there was nobody there to greet us. Whatever. We were just kind of standing on the runway. Da Nang was a huge place, like a city of Boston. There was stores, there was bowling alleys, and there was a big air base, so there was planes and helicopters. And this is 200 guys that got off this plane, and we have no idea what we're doing. So it turned out we spent the entire night in the outside area because there wasn't any tents set up for us on a stage that they had set up. They used for USO shows. And then the next day, there was some voices going on. They came back and said, we need 5 people to go out to this area for backfill the Marines that were either getting out of the time that they were injured of some degree. So it was interesting. We had no weapon. We had a uniform. We had a helmet. So I ended up getting a truck with 12 other people. We ended up heading to our base. The Marine Corps uses the base at the elevation at the location of where you're gonna go. I was on Hill 10. 10 was 10 feet of elevation from the speed. That's how they named it Hill 10. Rather than give it a name like White Mountain or something. They ran into where they needed to do that, they would do it, but for the most part, the locations all were designated by with a number. I was stationed at Hill 10 and Hill 55. And, so getting to Hill 10.
What was the question? What was the question?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
He's going on and on, giving you his whole life story in Vietnam. I'm not sure if he answered your question.
He did. You can keep going though. It's very interesting.
2 hills, Hill 10 and 10.
Yeah, so I started off on Hill 55, which was probably, actually I have a picture of it. I'll just show you some pictures I have.
What's your advice for someone thinking about joining?
I'm sorry?
What's your
What's your
advice?
advice for someone thinking about joining?
I don't know. I wouldn't discourage it.
You wouldn't?
No,
Okay.
I mean, at 18 and 19, you're old enough to make your own decisions if you need to do something or not. If I had known, I guess I would have went in anyways. I mean, I was fortunate enough not to get injured. I made the whole tour of duty and spent the majority of it out in the field. So,
He certainly matured over there, that's for sure. He could tell you a couple of stories. Say that again.
How did the Marines help you mature?
uh,
I don't know if it's the Marines themselves or whether it was the situation
yeah, I think it's situation.
being in war.
Yeah, being put into an environment where it was down to not a survival mode, but there was only a limited amount of people. In a typical day on the hill, and my role was we would spend a platoon of 12 to 15 people, and each platoon had a platoon leader, had a radio man, had somebody that carried an M16 machine gun. And
Did only one person have an M16?
yeah, no, everybody had
M16.
Yeah, the person that carried the M60 machine gun had a person with them that carried ammo, and they had an extra round of ammunition. And then everybody else that was in the platoon, the 10 people, also carried 200 rounds of ammunition for the M60. The M60 was well stocked with ammunition. Everybody else had an M16. And we also had a shotgun in our platoon because if you were carrying one to a village, you made a corner. The shotgun would be more effective than just a 16. So, and we had M79s, which were grenade launchers. So we would go out, 12 to 15 guys, and had a corpsman. The corpsman is the doctor that works. He's part of the Navy. He's assigned to the Marine Corps. So we had a patrol leader, foreman, radio man, and regular troops, runs, another 10 people. So we spent one day out walking around the area that circumference Hill 55 we were on. We toured that around because we were stationed there, and we came the next day on duty on the hill itself. Trenching night duty, so he's sitting in a bunker, hoping nothing would happen. And then the third day, we went out at night on a patrol, which was always a little scary because you would always be on the move, and you had a designation of where to go before you left that evening, and you had the maps, and you had a place that you were going to try to set up an ambush if you felt that there was anything in that area that we had to be aware of. And not a lot of times did you see the NVA. You saw the little farmers that fought in I just can get ahead of myself. But so you spent 3 days there, then I think that was it. And then we would go out on what they call operations. We would do things like we head to a hill.
Oh, what was your role after deployment?
After coming back from Vietnam.
Did you tell him you were the radio man in there?
No.
Okay. So during the war, he was the radio man. And I didn't know this myself, but we just went to a 50th anniversary and there were people speaking and they talked about the worst positions to have in the war was the lieutenant that was in charge of everything, the radio man, and the medic. Those are the three people that they wanted to kill. So that was pretty scary. And they were, that was very interesting. And he is still friends today with the guy that was the medic with him, who has had a lot of PSTD with, as you can imagine, all of the bodies and the people he had to care for.
What was the equipment like that you had to carry?
It was hot, so we would carry water, and you would not want to drink the water that came out of these wells. They give us purification tablets, but it was like drinking iodine. It was brutal. But,
well, I'm sure the Boy Scouts, didn't you have to do that when you did your 50-mile hike with Ricky? Have you guys done 50-mile hikes yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, you have? Okay.
we did it back in 250.
Yeah, 750 did it. Where'd you go? Appalachian Trail?
No, we did 10 miles a day for 5 days
For 5 days.
and cleaned the trail along
Clean the trail along the way.
Yeah, our
That was-
troopers went to Philmont this year, so I think they did something like that.
Okay.
Mm.
But was compared to that, you had the radio weighed 40 pounds.
Yeah.
So the radio weighed 40 pounds on his back. Did you carry your own water too?
Yep.
How much the water weigh? Yeah.
Well, I can't, depending how you go through cycles, I carried more water than I did ammunition.
He carried more water than ammunition because he was always thirsty. And one of his things that has come back from Vietnam with him is the fact that he's never going to drink warm water again. Everything has ice in it. It was always warm. Yeah.
Peace, would you like to ask some things?
Yeah. What was it like when you went out on the walks, like around the hills?
It was interesting. You go for a night that had a full moon. You could stay somewhere and spend the night like behind what they called the pagoda, like a graveyard. It had some backing to it. Meant because we had intelligence that would give directions of where we would go for the night. Because spot a plane that went by, so that they saw some activity. And they got some messages from villages that there was a movement. The villages that they wanted to stay around where the hill was occupied by the Marines or whoever, because they felt safe. Because the Viet Cong would come in and take out all of the males and use them as workers or whatever they needed to have done. And
What did you learn from the Marines that you've been able to apply to your life?
I don't know. I guess
There's probably a lot of stuff. Guess you
Yeah,
never
well,
thought about it, huh?
I didn't talk, but
Is it like being on time or?
well, being open and honest, and one of the things that you did when you were in country in Vietnam is the Marine Corps gave you a week off. We call R&R, rest and relaxation. And I went to one of the places you could go. You could go to Hawaii if you're married and meet your spouse. You could go to Thailand. You could go half a dozen places where you could go spend a week. I ended up going to Thailand for a week. And, it was interesting. I had to another couple guys. We had rented a driver in a car for $75 for the week. and he stayed outside the hotel. Took us anywhere we wanted to go. And I ended up buying a camera over there. I had never taken a picture of the camera, but I had a Yashica camera. And I would take it out on patrol at night and take some pictures. I do have some pictures. It was interesting because you made friends with people that you would either outlive them in the area or they'd be going home for you because nobody went over together as a group. We just went over individually. If I was in Da Nang and I needed 5 people somewhere, I said that I was out with 5 people.
I wonder if they did that for a reason, so you wouldn't feel a great loss from the group. I don't know.
I think it's just
People
a
would
matter of-
die. I don't know.
Yeah, they needed people. That's where they got a problem. Nobody was identified, designated to be whatever. You did have an MOS because of the military occupation status, and most people were just infantrymen. So,
Do you have any questions for me about my project?
what gave you the idea to do it?
You don't think you told you.
I just have a lot of like veterans in my family, like from both sides of my family, from my dad's and my mom's. And someday I want to enlist in the military.
Mhm.
Officers candidate.
Do an officer's candidate. Go to college first. But one thing that Rick didn't tell you is when Rick had been in countries, what they call when you're in Vietnam. He had been there for several months, and then the new lieutenant came in to take over the group, and they were going out on an operation, and the lieutenant asked him to march in single file up this hill, and Rick said to the lieutenant, no, that's not how you do it. We're not. And I think he was taken aback, Here's Rick, 19. This guy was probably 22, 23. He wasn't that much older.
Yeah.
And what happened? Was there an explosion or something? A line?
We would have been in an ambush.
It would have been in an ambush. They would have been ambushed if they had done the way the lieutenant had. So to this very day, he's one of the friends that him and the lieutenant and the medic are still friends. They meet up for lunch every once in a while. And he, to this day, still says Rick saved his life. Rick saved his life. Yeah. So sometimes you do need to listen to the underdog. He might not be the lieutenant, but
Yeah.
he ended up leaving the Marine Corps as a sergeant. He was made sergeant as he left Vietnam. He was a what's the word I'm looking for? A rebel rouser in boot camp, but ended up being a sergeant on the way out.
Yeah.
This is one picture of Rick. He's the one standing. And that was after Vietnam. He came home for a month and then was sent on a Mediterranean cruise and spent 2 weeks vomiting on the cruise ship, getting used to being seasick. And then had fun and games over in Italy and Sicily and Corso and Crete. Yeah.
It worked out well because we came back and there was 100 of us in the platoon waiting to be discharged, early discharged from the Marine Corps because there was just excess.
So many people after coming home from Vietnam that they just didn't need any more military. Mm-hmm. So he got discharged early.
And one time I raised my hand to volunteer for something. He wanted somebody that could type. For some strange reason, I had typing and some high. So I said, I can do that. So another man raised his hand too and said he could do it. The two of us became the discharges of 100 people.
They went into the office. That was a new job. From the cruise to the office work.
You pick and choose who was going to be discharged when. We had a time frame to get it done. So, and I still see this guy. It's crazy. But it's like we had a good time for the last
6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks, 3 months, couple like.
And then I was discharged myself.
He discharged himself because that was his job in the office. So he wrote his own discharge papers.
Yeah.
What you in the service for?
I'm sorry.
From like you said, 1969 to like what year did you?
1967 to 1970.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
May.
That's all.
Yeah. It was the time frame that Vietnam wasn't looked as a favorable location to be at.
Yeah, he didn't have a warm reception when he came home. Did they
Yeah.
tell you not to wear a uniform, or did you just choose not to?
No, they didn't.
Huh? Did they tell you not to wear your uniform?
No.
No?
No.
He didn't wear his uniform home because that was when all the protests were going on. And I'm sure you've heard, and that it's all being sort of made up for now, trying to give recognition to the Vietnam vets, because it was such a controversy. So there was no parades, no anything. It was just, yeah.
And I actually had to come home in sneakers.
Oh, he had bad jungle rot from Vietnam. It was so wet and damp. He got terrible fungus. To this day, his feet are not good. Yeah, along with the Parkinson's disease, he got a couple of good things from the military. Yeah.
Thank you for volunteering your time today.
Thank you.
This concludes the Heroic Reflections podcast series. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to these past 12 episodes. And please remember, today and every day, let's remember the sacrifices made by our servicemen and women. They've dedicated themselves to defending our freedoms, often at great personal cost. Take a moment to honor their courage, commitment, and sacrifice. Support them, listen to their stories, and show gratitude for all they do. Thank you.
This podcast is part of the NORCAS Podcast Network. Check out more podcasts at podomatic.com/NORCAM.